Well, it's everything football and other stuff. And Matt, I'll tell you, Matt is snowed in up there in North Carolina, and they got whacked this uh,
Hmm.
weekend. It's not normal for that area of North Carolina to pull up 5 or 6 inches of snow, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's videos of Myrtle Beach, North Carolina, a
Hmm.
place that really never gets snow ever.
Uh huh.
They got a strong coating of snow, so it hit North Carolina pretty hard. It hit Georgia and South Carolina as well.
Yeah.
Um, Stuff that you're not really used to.
And the southern part of Virginia, which also is not used to getting whacked, got whacked.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was heavy.
if you're out there, and one suggestion, just stay in. Let it go. Let it. Don't go out for a while. Just enjoy. Kick back. I'll tell you. One yeah, well, in San Diego though, um, at Torrey Pines, there's some pretty interesting golf that Justin Rose was playing.
Yeah, he played the kind of golf that like it's the kind of golf that surprises anyone when anyone other than Scotty Scheffler does it. That's how well he played this past weekend. Like it's one of those where it's most likely that Scotty's in the field. If he's playing his best, he may still not win. That's how well Justin Rose played. His
Hmm.
putter was fantastic throughout the entirety of the week. Like it was a wire to wire winner. He was just hitting better shots than everybody on a consistent basis throughout the golf tournament. Um, Joel Damon summed it up in they talked to him Saturday after his round where he was
Hmm.
in a tie for second. I think he was 6 shots back at that point in time. They
Yeah.
asked him, they said, Joel, do you think you have any chance to win coming in tomorrow? He said, yeah, I do. If Justin Rose oversleeps his tee time or just doesn't show up for some reason, um,
Yeah.
then yeah, I probably got a pretty good shot. But if he shows up and he plays the kind of any form of the kind of golf that he's been playing, there's no way. He said he's been just that much better than everybody else this week.
Well, the thing is, Justin Rose has been in the conversation of good golfers for a while. But he seems now to begin. You know how sometimes it takes a while for people to click in. Maybe just maybe this is Justin's time.
Yeah, well, and people forget that just 2 years ago in 2024,
Hmm.
he had to go out and he had to play the qualifiers for the Open.
Right?
He had to go out and re-qualify for the Open. He did that. He came in second in that Open,
Yeah.
and since then he's had a bit of a resurgence in his career.
Hmm.
Maybe not consistently at the tops of
Right.
leaderboards the same way some of these other guys are,
Uh-huh.
but he's played some really good golf at some different spots. He played well in the Ryder Cup this past year.
Hmm. Right.
Obviously, he played well at that Open. He played well at the Masters last year. And then obviously you see what he was able to do this week. So when Justin Rose has his ace stuff, he is one of the best golfers in the world, and I think that catapults him back inside of the top 10 in
Hmm.
terms of the official world golf rankings.
Yeah. And we got on the tennis side the Australian Open. Um the youngest guy to make it to a career Grand Slam. Alcaraz outlasts the Joker, and pretty much everything that anybody hit in his direction, he was able to return.
Yeah. Um, it was, I can't say that I got up at 3:30. Can't say I watched a lot of
Oh,
tennis. I don't know the most about tennis, but what I can tell you is that I went back and I watched a clip of Djokovic when they were returning,
hmm.
and he hit a few fantastic shots. And every time Alcaraz was able to answer back. He had talked about it last year. I can't remember which of the major tournaments they had finished, but he had talked about when he got eliminated, Djokovic did, how it's a lot harder now because these guys are just so much better athletically than he is now that he's on the backside in terms of his career.
Well, I mean, in many ways, Djokovic, he's not Federer. Okay, he's not Roger Federer, but it's the same kind of thing. You can Federer could hit, in return Joker's stuff, and then what he was finding out was Joker could return his stuff better. and I think that's where we're looking at right now with Alcaraz. Um, Joker is not as fast as he used to be. His hands are there. He can still hit the ball. His serve is still there. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you're not gonna. He's not gonna beat Alcaraz unless Alcaraz, makes mistakes, and he doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. Just
So,
like he's at the top of his game, and as long as he's not out there beating himself, then
yeah,
you know, as good as Djokovic has been, he's not going to beat him.
nope. Um, some fun stuff over the weekend in NASCAR. They, they played at Bowman Stadium, and it's actually a high school stadium, but it has back in the day they literally put a track around. The track was actually supposedly, supposed to be a regular track for track and field.
Hmm.
But they decided at the time when they were building it that what if we made it wide enough for car racing?
Hmm.
And I figured, okay, well, let's give it a shot. So one of the smallest venues in all of NASCAR, actually, it is the smallest venue in NASCAR, um, is Bowman Stadium, and they did the Clash there the other night, and it's fun to watch because it's basically um, a half a mile, a little more than half a mile. So these cars, you can't. It's not like you're going to get up a lot of speed to get around each other. So takes a lot of driving, and so you know, it was fun to watch. And Chase Elliott won, and and he had his car. There's a lot of fun situations where he was getting bumped because the guys that close they can bump each other, and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, and you'll see some guys maybe if they get out of line when they bump they'll push the guy off off his line, and sometimes that can spin him out. That can do all kinds of things. So there was a lot of paint, you know paint exchange between between cars in that race. uh, Last night I did watch some of the hockey, and was really good. Boston got up 5-1, and then the Tampa Bay Lightning retaliated and came back and won the game in a shootout. 65,000 showed up, and it was an outdoor event, and they were. Yes, this is this time of the year in that Tampa Bay area. You're usually talking about 70, 72 degrees. That's about your normal time. But it was 41 degrees when they started the hockey tournament. I mean the hockey game, in the stadium tournament, and it was much closer to being what hockey weather was like than you would expect at at an event in Florida. But it was fun. It was fun to watch. Sean McDonough, outstanding broadcaster on anything, but
Hmm.
Sean, a lot of people don't know, or don't, unless you're up from the Boston area. Sean Sean did the Bruins hockey for a number of years. He also
Hmm.
did Red Sox baseball for a number of years. So
Yep.
it wasn't hard for him to fall back into to doing hockey, and he does a very good job of it. And he was at his best last night, and it was fun. Super Bowl week starts this week, and I wish I could tell you something that nobody else knows about what's going on, but I can't. They haven't even gotten there yet. They'll be there tonight. I I don't know about you. I'll be honest about this. There are two teams in this Super Bowl I really don't care about.
Mm.
We will report to you, believe me. We will give you everything you want, but I I can't find myself just saying, "Oh boy, the Seahawks and the Patriots." You know, if it were the Rams and the Patriots, maybe, but the Seahawks and the Patriots, no, that doesn't do anything right. Doesn't move the needle anywhere.
Yeah, I think the NFL has really. I think part of that is the messaging that the NFL's had over the past couple of years
Mhm.
is that they've really pushed that grouping of quarterbacks to Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson kind of types,
Mhm.
and they're absent of those.
Hmm.
And then on the NFC side, some of their stars over there. For as much as he's highly debated, Jalen Hurts is a name.
Hmm.
Matthew Stafford's a name. But I think, just being honest, is Sam Darnold doesn't move the needle the same way those other names do.
No,
Drake May, he moves the needle some, just not the same way that those other names do. But I think when you dig down, there's some good stuff. It's interesting. Clint Kubiak's working on a deal to become the Vegas head coach right
right.
now.
Hmm.
That's something. You talk about Sam Darnold's journey back from where he was when he first got drafted. He's people use Baker Mayfield as a prime example of the career revival, but
Right.
Sam Darnold's done exactly what Baker did, but he's done it better than Baker has up
Hmm.
until this point. Um,
Yeah.
and so, you still have the rematch of the teams from 11 years
Yeah.
ago where he had that game-sealing interception. There's stuff that you can dive into, but I'd say it definitely can lose some appeal because it doesn't carry the same name value that some of the other Super Bowls have.
Well, fan bases count, and the Patriots have a fan base. There is no
Mhm.
doubt about that. And the Seahawks have a fan base, but they're not the national fan base. I mean, the Patriots, when Brady was there and Belichick was there, they had there's a love hate relationship. Some people loved them, a lot of people hated them. It was very hard to find somebody in the middle of that. Um, the Seahawks, though, they just, it, I'm just, the Seahawks. I'm happy for Darnold. Okay, I'm happy because I think
Mhm.
that's a cool thing for him. There's validation there. Drake May, you know, again, good story. There are storylines in this Super Bowl that we will unearth for you and carve out. My my statement that I made just a couple of minutes ago was that you and I we've been around Super Bowls for a very long time,
Mhm.
and sometimes you just can't wait to see these two teams play.
Yeah.
That just doesn't seem for me at this point in time to be. I really want to see these guys play each other. I mean, yes, it's Super Bowl. Yes, it's a championship. But then again, it's the same thing when Arizona was in the World Series. I could really okay, good, but I'm not going to miss the World Series. But then again, I really don't have a lot of traction for some of these matchups. I mean, you get better matchups sometimes in the road leading up to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely can. If Seattle's defense plays better
Hmm.
this week, which they played well when they had to against the Rams on that final drive, but in terms of a full body of work, they didn't necessarily put together a fantastic body of work against Los Angeles. If that defense rebounds, then I think everybody kind of expects Seattle to win.
Hmm.
But Patriots made it there for a reason. They've done
Sure.
good work too. They have a top 5 defensive unit, and it's going to fall a lot more on the shoulders of Drake May, who has not played very well over these last few weeks. But he's also played Denver's defense,
Hmm.
Houston's defense, and the Chargers defense as well, and all three are really solid units. I believe top
Yeah,
10 in
the
the
other, the other thing too is um, Mike Grable needs to get some love too. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he took that team and that franchise and spun it around. And I mean, they had a better defense in the championship game against Houston than Houston did, and Houston's got a fantastic defense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think part of that had to do with who they had at quarterback and who Houston had at quarterback. I think that mattered. Um, but yeah, their defense has done just as good of a job as all of those other defenses that they played. In fact, a better job because their offense hasn't it has not
We'll
clicked.
see
It
how.
didn't.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was going to say their offense has not clicked at all, really throughout these playoffs, whether that be the Chargers, the Texans, or the Broncos. It hasn't happened. But their offense hasn't had to click because their defense has just been so good.
Yeah, absolutely. The this is for those folks who watch their favorite basketball and hockey teams on a network. And that's because FanDuel has with both leagues and has told them that payments are not going to be coming forth to the NBA teams nor to the NHL teams for a while. And they're trying to work out something with the teams. The teams um, are likely, if FanDuel does not receive a cash infusion from somebody, and I have no idea who that somebody is, then they will file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is the absolute killer bankruptcy. And without question, we will that will send the NBA and the NHL into a frenzy. And both the leagues, NBA and the NHL, have prepared to do what MLB is doing and set up the overtaking of the FanDuel side of it, and create something for the fans so the fans don't lose the ability to watch their teams. But it does beg that question. Plus, as you and I have been chronicling for quite a while now, there's still 9 baseball teams that have not committed to the MLB, deal. And
Mhm.
my concern is, what the hell are they looking for?
Yeah, yeah,
They're not at FanDuel anymore, so okay, what's the plan, boys?
yeah. I'd be very curious as to the conversations that are going on regarding their network coverage or their plans going into the season regarding their network coverage. Because again, we've talked about it. The further you go on, is you run out of time. This isn't something that can materialize. Whoa, materialize very
It's
quickly.
not an
Yep.
easy thing to say.
Yep, materialize very quickly. And so time is of the essence. You're not that far off from spring training baseball, and there are the nuts that want to watch every spring training game that they can possible. That it might upset, but even more than that is if you don't have a product that's accessible to the fans, then you can lose some fans. Like everybody talks about, how do you find like a hardcore fan? There's a lot of people that aren't hardcore fans. Like when you get
Hmm.
down to the nitty gritty in terms of being like a hardcore fan, I think your percentage of your populations are not going to be that high, in terms of your fan bases, and so you are at risk at losing a decent portion of these fan bases if you let it go by and you're not able to get your product to the customer.
The thing too, Matt, is fan bases are interesting in such that um, I, long ago I was became a Dodgers fan back in the '70s, late '70s,
Hmm.
um, mainly because of my first interview I ever did for my high school newspaper was a an interview with a an alumni who was playing for the Dodgers at the time, is Steve Garvey.
Hmm.
So Steve, was I went through. I worked on as a runner for the uh, Tampa Bay for the Tampa Tarpons, which is of the Triple A. I mean the Single A team. And on weekends during spring training, I would work, at the stadium
Hmm.
doing whatever broadcasters needed me to do, which usually was running around trying to get who number 77 was, because he didn't have a name on the back of his jersey, but he was there. So um, I made arrangements to see if we could get to Steve. Steve was kind enough to give me the interview,
Hmm.
and from that point on, I liked the Dodgers. I mean, if I can't watch my team, I'm obviously I'm not in Los Angeles, but my point is this: you have a lot of people who watch the games on television, listen to the games on radio. They may only go to 1 or 2 games. They may not go to any game,
Hmm.
but they support the team. And how do they support the team? By ratings. Ratings help support the team. Okay. So you don't even have to make it to the stadium to affect the bottom line of a baseball team or an NBA franchise or an NHL franchise for that matter. So yes, it's important to be able to put people in the seats. That's always good.
Mhm.
But if you can't put people in the seats, your gauge is who's watching us. Okay,
Yeah.
most of those teams that are like we talked about the Pirates, right? In
Mhm.
time, the Pirates have an amazing rating in Pittsburgh on their on television.
Yeah.
People watch them on television. They have one of the biggest radio listening groups in all of Major League Baseball. So
Mhm.
it's not that people don't want to listen and watch Pirates games or go to the Pirates game. It's that they haven't put something on the field in so long. It's hard to get people even down to that beautiful ballpark at PNC.
Yeah.
But the the loyalty of fans and the fan base is, as you said, hardcore fans. I'm I would say most teams in Major League Baseball have maybe 30-40% of their fan base is hardcore. The rest of it is more of a casual fan.
Mhm.
And the way you connect with the casual fan is you have your games on television. They turn it on. They see what's going on. They kind of think, okay, you know what? We should go down. We haven't been to a game this year. Let's go down
Mhm.
and do it. So it's or you have the situation that is like when we were kids, where you watch the game and you go, hey, can we go to a ball game?
Mhm.
You're asking your parents, and if you bug them hard enough and long enough, maybe you just get there. So
Yeah.
I do believe more than anything that television and baseball are go hand in hand in driving people to to become fans of teams. As we talked about with the Atlanta Braves, people in Iowa, people in Hawaii, people all over the country when Turner had TBS and the Braves were on every day. There are Braves fans everywhere.
Yep.
So it's the Chicago Cubs had the same thing when they had WGN as a superstation. So I do think that what I don't understand, and hopefully I will find out soon enough, is why the 9 teams that are out there have not committed to working with Major League Baseball, but are waiting for something that there's no reason to believe is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be very curious to see the thinking in those rooms when they're going over this stuff. On you're talking about the large listening and watching audience for the Pirates, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that goes back to, and it's an opinion, that's
Mm-hmm.
changed with perspective, but it's something where, yeah, you're probably going to have a larger listening audience because you don't put something on the field that's worth going to see. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that, like, fans not turning out,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're a fair weather fan. How dare you not show up during the
Mm-hmm.
hard times, stuff like that. It's not cheap going to games. Like
Mm-hmm.
like it's not. It's a long time commitment. It's not cheap necessarily, depending on where you're going. And, do you want to sit in the 300 section and watch your team lose by 8 runs? I don't know. I can't say that it's necessarily something that you want to spend your time and your money on. So these fan bases, I think that teams that aren't filling stadiums because of the product, not because their fans aren't out there. Like the Athletics weren't filling the Coliseum, not because they weren't able to, but because the Athletics hadn't cared to fill the Coliseum
Mm-hmm.
in quite some time. So you got to put the product out there in order to get the fans in the stands because they do have these alternatives that are easier and more flexible. And if I'm watching a game on TV, if I need to go do laundry, I can go do laundry. I can do stuff productive in that time, and I didn't spend money, and I didn't go to the park either. So it saves you time and money. And if the ownership doesn't care, why should the fan bases care? That's the
Yeah,
way you.
and no, you're right. And the thing is that uh, the amount that baseball's done a good job in one regard, and that is they have partnered with a number of different entities. Normally, it's a grocery store or some sort of thing like that, where they have like a family night where you can go for $10. You can get in the ballpark and you get a hot dog and potato chips and something to drink. Okay,
Hmm.
that's like going to the movies. Okay, and $10 is a reasonable price,
Yep.
and so that's worked for them. For and those are usually the games that no one. It's it's like if we're talking about the Braves, that would be a game against maybe the Marlins or maybe against you know um, I don't know, maybe the Nationals. We'll see.
Hmm.
Teams that don't move the needle fan base wise.
Yeah.
But you can get in there. So I get that. That's great. But
Yeah.
you also you're pricing yourself out of the market, and then you're not giving people what they want to see for the price that you're charging them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's difficult. I mean, I can give you an NBA situation. A few years back, my niece wanted to go to an NBA game. I'm not these one of these guys who goes out and calls in friends and gets free tickets. I figured that's not professional.
Yeah.
So we went we went to see. She wanted to see the Miami Heat play against the Wizards, and that evening for four people cost them around $400.
Hmm.
What average family can just lay down $400
Yeah.
to go to a basketball game?
To go watch the Washington Wizards of all teams.
I don't want to say it, but yeah, it was painful.
Yeah.
It was definitely painful. But by the way, they beat the Heat that night.
Wow.
But yeah, my who knew, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, it's you want to do it. It's an event to get people save up to go to these games,
Yeah.
and so um, I mean, one of the things I will say for the NBA, and we're talking about back in the day, I can't say it right now, is I never saw, and I did a lot of NBA basketball. Bird, Johnson, Michael Jordan, they showed up
Hmm.
every day. And Jordan and Bird, and they said to Bird, why, what's the deal? And he said, Michael and Magic and myself, and because people that we go to Cleveland, or we go to Indiana, that may be the only time they get to see us play.
Hmm.
And he said, and so in many ways we're an entertainer, we're performers. People want to take home that ticket and remember that's when I got to see Larry Bird play, or Michael Jordan, or in the case of Magic Johnson. And I don't think that's entered into the ethos of the NBA now, because you'll see guys take days off without any problem, feeling any pain about taking these days off.
Yeah.
It's different if you're hurt. I don't want anybody to play when they're hurt, but at the end of the day, if LeBron James and his comes into town and I don't get to see him play, then I spent my $400 for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's most of the times it's just these, or I say most of the times. The what you're referencing is like the workload days where you're pretty
Yeah,
much just taking a day off of work. Uh,
sure.
it's almost like PTO they're
They're
taking.
managing. Yeah, they're managing the work of the
Yeah.
of the players.
So that is a factor. I was going to circle back to the larger point. I was talking about the fair weather fandom
Hmm.
and how you can't really blame people for not showing up for bad product. What you
Hmm.
do is you take away that aspect though. If somebody can't reach your product that way, like they they may not be more inclined to go to the stadium if they can't reach that product. That may not happen. Like there may not be a family that cares that much or can afford to do so. And at that point, now you're just shutting them out from your product altogether. And it's understandable to lose fans that way. Like
Hmm.
it's going to happen if that's the route they go down.
Yep, and hopefully they'll figure. I would say that if we don't hear anything from Major League Baseball teams before, let's today is the third. Let's say the beginning, that'd be the 16th, I guess. Monday would be the 16th of February.
Hmm.
16th of February, your pitchers and catchers have been there.
Yeah.
5 days after that, the teams normally call in everybody.
Yeah.
So we're approximately 3 weeks away from potentially having meaningful spring training games.
Hmm.
And we're a little over a month away from the start of the season.
Yeah.
I I just it boggles my mind that as a programmer, how in the hell am I going to figure out what to do with Major League Baseball games and potentially NHL and NBA games uh, in my market? Where are we going to put them?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Um, I think that there are a number of teams last year, more hockey than anybody else, that decided, you know what, this whole thing with they were smart. They figured out, you know what, Main Street is not going to this is not going to last. So
Hmm.
they bailed and they started their own networks. Each one of them, they worked with the NBA and the NHL. They worked with over-the-air broadcast stations, and they ended up deciding, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Hmm.
And they offered the entire slate. Every game was on over-the-air broadcast stations for free. And
Hmm.
if you were outside the market, you could stream it and pay $20 a month to get all of your games for your favorite team. That formula for them 1 year in seems to have been a good way. The fans engagement with the fans they saw was like shot up amazingly.
Hmm.
So the numbers were good. They got people in the building. It seems to have been a good process. I have no clue as to why the NBA teams that are still with FanDuel and the NHL teams that were still with FanDuel didn't see what those other teams saw.
Hmm. Yeah, those franchises that made that move, they have people in their room. Uh, to be honest with you, it may just be you may just have better decision makers on those other teams. Flat
Mm-hmm.
out, plain and simple. I don't know what they got um, over in those places that haven't been relayed to the ones that are still out here waiting. Um, because that's a product that's good for the consumer. Like every good product starts as a consumer friendly product. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like I think you look at all these streaming services and the way they began.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix started at $5 a month or something like
Sure.
that. Like all these places, they start really low, and then after you get the nibble, you can pull the
Right.
price. You probably are going to pull the price up, and you're probably going to lose a few people, but you probably going to make more in terms of your price increase, then you're going to lose on people not paying it anymore. So that's the model that's always worked, and it's one that's successful for consumers because you're going to get them in. You're going to have that fan engagement, and it's overall probably going to be a plus for you in terms of your returning customers overall than if you go the route that these teams that are just still out here wandering aimlessly apparently through the landscape right now are doing.
Well, too, when you offer something over the air broadcast free TV, right?
Mhm.
The TV stations do a hell of a lot of promotion for you.
Yeah.
So you may be watching Seinfeld, or you may be watching, Big Bang, anything that is on what we would call an independent television station, not necessarily a network station. And you start, saying, "Oh, cool, I'll watch the game." You watch the game, by the way, and during the course of the game, the promotion goes the other way. It's like,
Mhm.
right after us, after Braves, our Braves post game show, stay tuned for the Channel 17 news. You know,
Mhm.
and so and throughout the entire night, you can promote movies, you can promote anything else that's going to be on the station. Meanwhile, the station, how do they pay you back? They do that by running spots for the team all day long in all of their different shows.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's a way to build a you sprinkle the sports into the um, into the daily lives of the people who live in those towns. And you
Yeah.
can do it through the news. You can do it through any number of different ways to promote the team. If you're on a regional sports network, all they're doing is promoting something you already know is going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They're giving you the day, what time they'll be back tomorrow, and your favorite ad from your Toyota dealership 18
right,
times.
well, that and then they do 3 replays of the same damn game.
Yep. Yep. That's
So
they have the pregame, the postgame, the replays, and the actual games.
yeah, and
That's about
so
it.
you turn on at 7 o'clock in the morning and you're watching the game that was on last night.
Hmm.
Um, so it's one of those things where I do think that those teams and the NBA also, the Utah team, Phoenix, who else? Um, Phoenix, Utah. Um, I'm trying. There's a third team, and I'm forgetting. I'm blanking on it. Oh, Dallas, the Mavericks. They all and Houston. They all went into their own. They took back their rights and decided this is what we're going to do.
Hmm.
It seems to have worked out for them too. So I don't understand, and maybe I never will, why Major League Baseball, the teams, because the it's so close to the beginning of the season. Why are you jerking around? You know that the people that may are, there's rumors that FanDuel is trying to, or shouldn't say FanDuel, Main Street is trying to get some of these teams back,
Hmm.
and for reasons I have absolutely I can't fathom, they are listening to them. And let me just put it to you this way: if you have a general manager, a broadcast director, whomever it is, owner, I don't give a damn who it is. If you're listening to Main Street pitching you that they're going to give you money and come back, you are an absolute and total fool. I can say that from experience of knowing how these things work, and it's not. If it failed one time and it failed the second time, what are you doing here? I mean, it is that old adage about Albert Einstein's thing saying, if you do something over and over again, expecting the same result, then basically you're a fool.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And I don't understand why you wouldn't want to own your own rights, control your own rights, and do it in a way that makes sense. And especially now when, this thing happened in January 9th is when they pulled out. January 9th, I mean, there's you're programming, if you're programming for a television station, in January you're programming for August.
Hmm.
So, you've got to get, if I want the team, which a lot of stations would. Peachtree, we talked about them. A lot of those stations will say, you know what, okay, fine, we'll just figure out a way to make it work. Okay,
Yeah.
but if you give them a week to do it, man, that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So I do know that some of these teams are in discussion with Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball can put them on tomorrow, but and they control the rights, but I'm not sure they know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And I'll tell you the reason for that is because the RSNs paying them money over the years, they got fat, dumb, and happy. They didn't care about it. I mean, director of broadcasting mainly dealt with the radio people. They
Hmm.
didn't really deal with the RSNs because that was plug and play. We know what we're going to get from them because we're contractually obligated. They'll give us this. We have to give them that. Okay, fine. That was, that's about as simple as it gets. But
Hmm.
now they have to work for their money and have to figure out what it is that's going to make it work. And I don't know what. I mean, I'm waiting for an announcement We did see the Washington Nationals said that they would now. Um, Bob Carpenter, who had been the voice of the TV voice of the Nationals, had he retired last year, so that we knew that was going to be an opening.
Hmm.
And Dan Colco, who was the number two, he would do radio and then he would do the pre and post game show, but he would fill in for Carpenter when you know during the course of the baseball season. There's times when the play-by-play and the color analyst get some time off. It's a long season, and Dan would fill in.
Hmm.
So Dan is going to be back with Kevin Franson as the broadcast team. Good for Dan. He deserves it. So Major League Baseball said, fine, let's do it. Just like we talked about Don Rossello out in San Diego. He got, they brought them back. There's no
Hmm.
reason to believe that Major League Baseball is going to not bring back your broadcasters. The only thing that
Yeah.
Major League Baseball is going to do is change the way the game looks. They're going to come up with, you know, graphics that are solid graphics that have a major league. Everything they're going to do is going to make each game look like a network game. I
Yeah.
can't
And
see that that's a bad thing.
I mean, let's not pretend like these RSNs were putting out a fantastically produced product in terms of some of the stuff they like. Their score bugs were awful. The product overall, it felt like when you watched it on FanDuel Sports Network, it felt pretty cheap, all things considered, when you watched their overall production.
It was.
So that was plain and simple. In terms of these teams, it feels like you highlighted there's just like two good avenues of thought as to the teams that
Mhm,
have not gone with the MLB or done their own thing with their own rights. And
mhm,
and that's, you talked about the broadcasting directors getting,
mhm,
fat and lazy. Sometimes when you've done something a certain way for so long, like that's their routine now. It's hard to reset a routine, and I'm
mhm,
sure it's a lot harder to reset a routine where you're doing a lot more work now. Like going from a small workload back up to a big workload is a whole lot harder than going from a big workload down to a small workload, which was the change they made initially. So there's that aspect of it. Either that or whoever's running mainstream, like whoever they're talking to, just must be the best used car salesman in the entire world. And I mean, I don't know why I mean, there's dealerships everywhere that could probably use these
mhm.
guys. They'd sell them like they're hotcakes. I mean, they couldn't
Yeah,
hold on to cars if they got these guys based on the job that they're apparently doing with these Major League Baseball teams.
yeah. The one thing though too is general managers and program directors of TV stations and sales directors. They're pretty good at their selling their job too.
Hmm.
I imagine um, we'll use Atlanta for the moment. I imagine the general manager Peachtree would love to have 100 Braves games on.
Yeah.
So I can guarantee you that general managers of television stations all around those nine baseball teams have made phone calls and probably both to the MLB and to the teams and saying, "Hey, look, we want you. You need to just tell us when the hell we can do this, because we can unleash the hounds, our salespeople, and go out there and get it. But you need to tell us what you know when and if you're going to do it this way." Um,
Yeah.
I know that, for instance, I was talking to some guys from WTOG, the station I started with down in Tampa, St. Petersburg, and they carried 20 um, Rays games last year. The ratings were phenomenal, and they got $2,500 a spot for the game.
Hmm.
That's about $2,000 more than they would get for a normal spot for the time period that the baseball game would have been on.
Yeah.
So, I, you know, um, is there money to be made? Yes, but I've seen a lot of people say, well, they're going to lose a lot of revenue. That's a fact. I mean, they're going to lose until they figure it out. But right now is not the time to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right now is get your damn product on the air, then worry about it.
Yeah. Like we
And
talked about it with golf.
Yeah.
they're in a bad spot right now. They're not gonna you're not making a birdie from where you're sitting if you're these guys when you're looking at terms of you're gonna lose revenue, right? But you got to go out there and you got to put yourself in a position where you can go make par. Like, yeah, we're gonna lose. You can go make bogey. Like, we're gonna lose something here, but how much are we gonna lose is the big factor. And if they keep going this way, they're gonna lose a lot more than they need to. They're trying to be aggressive and play hero ball with this RSN stuff, and they're running out of time.
Yep. The clock is ticking. All right. One last thing before we go. Um, I'm not the sale of the NFL network to ESPN. Uh, I don't know what to think about it yet, and I say that
I'm not.
because the last thing I want to see is ESPN. I like the NFL network. I like the job they do. I like the people that they have.
Mhm.
I, I don't know how. I don't want it to be ESPNified. Um, I would like to just see it left alone. That is not going to happen. Disney didn't spend that money to let it alone.
Yeah, I think you also now have like it, it feels like a little bit of a conflict of interest with ESPN and the NFL in terms of what they're doing because ESPN has they're linked with a betting service. Like, that's something
Hmm.
that's happened. That's going to be something that's pointed out throughout this entire process. They introduced ads onto Red Zone, something that people
Hmm.
weren't happy about. And if you paid attention to it this past season, they
Hmm.
slowly ticked up the type and amount of ads shown on Red Zone throughout the season
Hmm.
because it's something they knew they could get away with, and that's stuff where ESPN has excelled in. Like, they excel in getting more ads on stuff and turning what is a pretty good product for the consumer into a much worse product for the consumer. I mean, they acquired, the NBA pregame show with Kenny, Shaq, Charles, and Ernie. And what have they
Hmm.
done? They've been on TV, I think, like 3 times since they acquired it. And this NBA
Yeah.
season, we're in the month of January, or we're in the month of February now, and they've barely been on TV recently. Just in their model, everything that ESPN touches turns to shit. And so that doesn't make you feel good about the prospects of what the NFL network is going to be moving forward, given what it's been in the past. And that's just the pure product standpoint. There's outside stuff that people have legitimate concerns about in this partnership as well.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, you know, the one thing that you could count on the NFL network was it wasn't hype network. It
Mhm.
was a lower key network. It was an opportunity to watch, um, you know, former professional sports football players and professional broadcasters do good shows.
Yeah.
And the idea now that Disney and ESPN own them, I just I don't see any way that Jimmy Pitero is not going to try to engage some of these guys involve them back into, roll them into the the ESPN ethos. And one last thing on this: there's a lot of really talented people at the NFL Network, and I'm hoping that they don't just kick those guys to the side and say, well, we can take care of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need that. We don't need these people.
I think,
Well, these people built the damn network, so
yeah.
I don't
Yeah. I mean, and another ramification is now it means we're going to have to hear about the Cowboys pretty much every day on that network. If ESPN has their way about it, I mean, good lord, maybe we can sneak some LeBron coverage into what they're working over there on the NFL as well, just following the ESPN model.
yeah, I don't. Looking for Stephen A. I mean,
Yeah,
look, as I said, ESPN was very good to me, and I have no, um, I have no qualms about debating what they did back in the day. But the changes they made to make it more entertainment and less sports, um, basically, I think was the ruining of the network.
Yeah, yeah, they've stunk. Call a spade a spade. They
Yeah.
just have not. They've geared fully away from their sports coverage, and they cover sports in the most entertaining fashion they could find possible. And I
Yeah.
guess credit to them, but there's a reason that the NFL Network felt quiet, like
Hmm.
because they were giving you legitimate analysis and like things that would actually help you in understanding the game of
Hmm.
football, and ESPN specializes in not doing that.
And I'll tell you what, to close it out, one of my favorite networks to watch is the MLB network. I love
Hmm.
watching Harold and the guys at night watching a
Oh,
game. When they dip into a game in the middle of the game and start talking, it's like, wow, it's like you're sitting there with your friends. You're
yeah.
like,
Hmm.
all right, because they turn the sound down, so you're not hearing the announcers, you're hearing them, and they're
Yep.
having all kinds of fun. And
Yeah.
so, Greg Ansinger and Danny Plesac and Harold, I mean, that's fun.
Yep.
Um, and if somebody touches that, I'll get pissed off. But
Yeah.
the your point about Ernie, Chuck, and Shaq and Kenny, they have done nothing to that show. I mean, they meaning they haven't they hype it, but they don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They
what's the sense?
acquired an asset and then just left it sitting on the shelf, pretty much.
Mhm. I think the big thing that I think the league was pushing in that direction, pushing them to ESPN. But
Hmm.
I know for a fact that um, Amazon put a lot of money out there and threw a lot of money at it and said,
Hmm.
"Look, we don't care where you produce it from. Produce it from the moon. I don't care, but we need that. We need that show. We want that show."
Yeah.
And there was some backdoor negotiations that it ended up on ESPN.
Mm.
I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened, but I think that had it gone to the streaming service, to Amazon, I think that that would have been a better place for it to be.
Yeah. I think you would have found that product on probably every time Amazon has their primetime games.
Right.
It would have been a more utilized product. And maybe that's why it's on ESPN now. You talked about the back channels. That wasn't
Mhm.
exactly a show where they bit their tongue by any measure. So maybe the NBA wanted to see a little less of Ernie and the gang.
Maybe, maybe Chuck was getting on their nerves
There you go.
because he talks. Don't ask Chuck a question if you don't want the answer.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
anyway, all right. Well, look, we will talk a little bit more about that game coming up Sunday
Hmm.
on the show tomorrow. But we just had some housekeeping to do and some fun stuff to chat about. So join us tomorrow, gang. We'll have some fun at around 3 o'clock. Don't forget to, of course, hit the bell, like us, leave a comment. We'll be sure to answer it. And by the way, before we get out of here, um, Zach Bobo, who is a fantastic real estate guy in Georgia, by all means, we'll put the information out there so you can find it and get in touch with Zach. Zach's a good dude. If you have want a house in Georgia or anywhere in the southeast, by all means, just get in touch with Zach. Okay. All right, gang. Have a lovely day. It's been fun, and from Matt and I, we'll see you tomorrow.